China's newest stealth fighter prototype J-31 reportedly took off on its first test flight over the Shenyang Aircraft Company airfield in northeastern China. Escorted by some J-11 fighter jets, the J-31, coded Falcon Eagle, has made its maiden flight successfully. This happened on Wednesday morning of October 31, 2012. The 10-minute aerial debut of the twin-engine Falcon Eagle represents a huge leap forward for China's ambitious stealth warplane program. Some reports circulate on the internet that the J-31 might be destined to operate off of China's first aircraft carrier, the Liaoning. China is now testing two separate stealth warplane designs, placing the rising Asian power just behind the United States, which has 3 F-35 stealth models in development.
It's a bleak place, but history was made here. It was 1999, Yugoslavia under attack from NATO, when Zoltan Dani became the only person to have ever shot down a stealth bomber plane. His missile hit it in the sky, and it came down in these fields. It was an American F-117, the pride of their Air Force. Excited villagers could scarcely believe it. For Serbia, a moment of triumph amidst years of humiliation and retreat. Zoltan had used radar to see a plane designed to be invisible. Afterwards, he says, 3 countries offered money for his expertise. 2 from the Middle East, and a third, which he would not name, but which he describes as a rising power. Fast forward to today, and pictures emerge of China's stealth fighter plane, a breakthrough that has taken the world by surprise, and led many to ask, how did China do it?
Most of the remains of the American plane are on display here at Belgrade's Aviation Museum. Now, the Chinese deny any link between their plane and the American one. Rather, they say they've developed a new stealth fighter using indigenous, entirely Chinese technology.
We met a farmer who lives near where the American plane was shot down. Like many here, he recalls how that event, briefly, transformed lives in a traditional rural community.
We found parts of the plane in the fields. Then the Chinese came here and offered us gifts and sometimes money in return for those parts. They were asking everyone. They came to my house. I gave them part of the plane. I had no use for it.
So, assuming the Chinese did get pieces of the American plane, would that have helped them to build their own very different-looking model?
Anyone who had access to the surface of the aircraft could learn about the special coating that makes it almost invisible to radar. So if they had parts of the F-117, that would have been a big advantage to developing their own stealth aircraft.
It's an intriguing story, and we'll probably never know the whole truth. Whether the Chinese really did rely on help from a small Serbian village to build a very modern plane. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera in northern Serbia.
The position as one of the world's biggest economies, China seems unwilling to shed its reputation for cheap replicas, and one of their more ambitious copycat efforts may put a strain on Russia-China relations. Igor Gorodnev explains.
This is the Russian Sukhoi 27, and this is the Chinese J-11B. Can you spot the difference?
This Chinese plane is simply a Russian design, stuffed with local electronics. It's a knockoff.
And it's threatening to cause serious turbulence between neighbors. Last year, Russian aircraft sales internationally topped $3 billion, second only to the US. But others too want a slice of the aviation pie.
These aircraft, they are widely offered in the world arms market. So definitely sooner or later, or even today, Russian arms traders will face competition from Chinese colleagues.
China was given the design plans for the Russian fighter jet in 1995, when it promised to buy 200 kits and assemble them at home. After building 100 planes, the Chinese said the Russian plane did not meet specifications, only for a copycat version to soon appear, made in China, but without copyright. The threat from China is real. It will be difficult for the Russian aviation industry to maintain its lofty position and soar further unless it manages to better protect its copyright and also find new ways of cooperating with its eastern neighbour. And both of these aims seem some way off. Although it made its maiden flight over 30 years ago, the Su-27 remains the bedrock of the Russian Air Force and is highly popular abroad.
I don't think anyone who's flown on the Su-27 can ask for a different plane, unless we're talking about a new generation jet. It's maneuverable and has a huge range.
Some are calling for calm over the controversy. While the resemblance of both planes is clear, experts say the Chinese J-11B doesn't have the latest Russian high-tech features and will be no match for it on the international market.
The best way to fight copyright violations is to be technologically ahead of your rivals. The biggest problem for Russia is that it's been living off the legacy of the Soviet Union, and soon its technology may no longer be world leader.
Rather than continue a dogfight over the copycat plane, it's possible that Russia and China may yet settle the matter amicably, at the highest political level. But in the shady world of international weapons copyright, similar cases are sure to follow. Igor Ogorodnev, RT, Moscow.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, then Russia should be very flattered indeed. That's because China's new aircraft carrier bears a striking resemblance to the old Russian model. Henry Morton reports from Beijing.
It may be more common to accuse China of pirating clothes and DVDs, but now it seems the Chinese are increasingly turning their hand to copying military hardware as well. Analysts now believe Beijing is close to starting work on its own made-in-China aircraft carrier, using the Varyag, a sister ship of the Russian vessel the Admiral Kuznetsov, as a blueprint. However, experts say the Chinese will still find it extremely difficult to build an aircraft carrier of their own.
It is impossible to copy such a complex construction. One could copy the way it appears from the outside, but you need real knowledge to actually get it to work. It would be very difficult to make an identical aircraft carrier. So I don't think this is a case of copying.
This is not the first instance of the Chinese taking advantage of Russian military know-how. Beijing has been making legitimate arms deals with Moscow for years, with the Chinese buying some $2 billion worth of Russian hardware in the last decade or so. But even these have been hit by scandal, with China last year being accused of copying the Russian Su-27 jet fighter. Despite these accusations of hardware piracy in the past, Chinese analysts believe that there will be no need to copy Russian designs in this instance.
Media hype said China is copying a Russian aircraft carrier. I have to say again, we need to gain experience from others in military technology, but we never copy any specific thing from any country. I have seen the Varyag, and it is actually only used as a tourist attraction. Its technology is old-fashioned, and it's not advanced enough for our modern navy.
Despite claims that they don't need the help of Russian technology to build their aircraft carrier, the Chinese do look like they are taking advantage of their purchase of the Varyag, with reports saying that they have already built a full-scale model of the ship deck near the city of Wuhan in the centre of the country. So while China continues to rely on Russian military know-how to get its aircraft carrier designs off the drawing board, it's unclear how much use the Chinese will actually be able to make of the Varyag, and whether there is the political will in Beijing to actually go through with such a costly project. Henry Morton, RT, Beijing.
Welcome back. China has long been known to steal U.S. military secrets. The latest may be a high-tech stealth helicopter used to kill Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. According to a report in the Financial Times, authorities in Pakistan gave Chinese authorities a peek at the chopper.
The Financial Times reported on Sunday that Pakistan might have allowed the Chinese military to view and take samples from the tail of the wrecked stealth helicopter used in the US raid that killed Osama bin Laden. The helicopter tail contains cutting-edge stealth technology that could have been reverse-engineered by the Chinese military. The FT article quotes sources close to the White House and the CIA, acknowledging that Pakistan had allowed the Chinese military access to the helicopter wreckage, even after being explicitly asked not to do so. So far, the White House has not given comment. If true, it would not be the first time the Chinese regime has stolen cutting-edge military secrets from the United States. It is widely believed that the Chinese Chengdu J-20 stealth fighter jet was made possible by pieces of a US F-117 Nighthawk the Chinese military got after the plane was downed in Serbia in 1999 during a NATO-led bombing campaign. The Russian Sukhoi T-50 stealth fighter is thought to owe its existence to pirated pieces from the same F-117.
These are the photos of the US helicopter abandoned in the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound in Pakistan. The helicopter was damaged and ditched during the raid. This photo shows the wreckage caused in the compound in Abbottabad.
The economy isn't the only thing growing in China, as the military is rapidly growing as well. The Chinese regime has increased its defense budget this past year by 12%. But according to Russian intelligence, the Chinese regime may also be gathering military secrets through espionage. Here's that story.
Russian intelligence announced on Wednesday they detained a Chinese man suspected of spying. The Chinese national Tun Xianyun worked as a translator for visiting Chinese officials. He stands accused of attempting to obtain the designs of an advanced Russian missile system. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. The S-300 is a truck-mounted missile launcher capable of shooting down aircraft and missile warheads with a range of 90 miles and at an altitude of about 90,000 feet. Although the man was detained a year ago, prosecutors only just submitted the case on October the 5th. The Chinese regime has long been the biggest buyer of Russian military technology, including aircraft and submarines. The announcement by Russia comes a few days before Vladimir Putin visits China to strengthen ties with the regime.